Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Welcome to another episode of The Breakfast Show here on the Voice of Islam Radio. Today is Wednesday, the 22nd of May, 2024. Myself, Shajil Ahmed, and also Abdul Halim here with me as well. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing this morning?
Wa alaikum assalam. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you and all of our listeners. Yeah, I'm doing well. Just, everyone's a bit under the weather because they thought it would be summer, but it's still raining outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit up and down. It's up and down.
But to be honest, the temperature is still quite fine.
It's not the temperature's right. It's quite decent as well.
It's just the rain, isn't it?
It's the rain. It's the rain, and obviously when it's summer, you don't want it to rain. You want it to be
exactly
continuously nice weather, isn't it?
At least a week.
At least for a week, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least for a week or so, and then keep it a bit mild and maybe get hot again. But we are coming towards the end of May.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. Let's see how the weather changes. We'll talk a little bit about what the weather forecast is as well. But today on the Breakfast Show, where we have two main segments which we're going to be talking about today, and they're quite interesting. And both of the topics are to do with science. Firstly, we're going to be talking about there's the John McFall, he's trying to become a para-astronaut, and he's on a mission to open up space. It's quite interesting because he was a former Paralympian, and he's working with the European Space Agency on a groundbreaking study to see if it's actually feasible or not for someone with a physical disability to live and work in space.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting topic.
It is.
Because, we have a lot of people out there who would want this opportunity.
As well. And it's quite empowering as well. A lot of people may think that that's because one has a disability, they can't do certain things,
exactly.
Right? So it is a good thing as well. Like I mentioned, we're going to be talking mainly about science. So neurotech is the next topic which we're going to be talking about. A brain implanted by Elon Musk's recently established neurotech company, actually, Neuralink, has partly detached from the patient's brain, beginning to retract with no explanation from the company as of yet. So it's about this Neuralink, a neurotechnology company, and how Neuralink's first human trial faced a sort of a setback as the chip which was implanted began detaching from the patient's brain. So that's a bit, I don't know, is it futuristic? Is it meddlesome? Do we need to go that deep? Do we just need to, do we even need to do that?
Yeah, does the world need to take that step?
Literally.
As in, is our brain not enough? That we have to have a chip inside
it's a moral compass as well. We need to play the part of ethics as well, isn't it? We can't just really need to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. There's a law of nature out there.
Of course.
So we have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. As it is an interactive show, if you want to get in touch with us, the number to call in, as always, is 0208 687 7878. You can call us, or you can even WhatsApp message us as well on the same number. That's 0208 687 7878. What's happening around the news? We'll talk a little bit about that just now. But just before that, the weather. So the BBC reports that today will be an overcast day for many. Wet conditions across much of England, with an area of heavy and persistent rain continue to move northwards. Drier for parts of the west, especially Northern Ireland. Tonight will be cloudy and unsettled conditions, with outbreaks of heavy and persistent rain across much of the north and west, but mostly dry further to the south and east, with some clear intervals as well, but it will be breezier. Now tomorrow will be cloudy and damp for many. The start of tomorrow, with further periods of rain in the north and west, becoming lighter and patchier as the day progresses. Drier further to the south, with some brighter spells, which is something maybe to look forward to as well. An outlook for Friday onto the weekend. Friday, most of the UK will see overcast skies with a few bright breaks possible throughout, and light showers are expected in Scotland and central England. Saturday will start dry and bright for most, but clouds and patchy rain will move in from the west in the afternoon. And Sunday we'll see patchy clouds, sunny spells, and the odd shower in some places as well. So it's a bit up and down towards the end of the week as well. It's a bit up and down. Rainy in some places, and some sunny spells in some other places as well. But
majority
hopefully,
of it is not too well.
Yeah, it's not. But hopefully next week it'll start to dry up and see more sun.
And it's the holidays for the kids as well.
Holiday for the kids as well. Half term, isn't it?
So everyone wants good weather on that.
Yeah, I mean this is the last half term until the summer holidays.
Yeah.
So everyone wants to.
Exactly. In the holidays, it's a good thing to have for the children as well.
So what's happening around the news? Just to begin with, there's a live or breaking news that just come in as well, that UK inflation is expected to fall ahead of new figures, which was released just now as well at 7:00. Now, inflation was running at 3.2% in the year to March 2024, the lowest rate since September 2021. So since about COVID times, and this is above the Bank of England's 2% target, and so it decided not to cut interest rates.
It's expected to fall, or it's fallen now.
Expected to fall.
Oh, okay.
Because of the figures which are shown, it's expected to fall. And so inflation peaked at 11.1 in October. In 2022, you would remember that. Yeah. That everything, bills, energy bills, groceries, fuel, everything was at a peak, very high, because that was when it was peak, isn't it? 11.1% in October. Yeah. And that has been the highest since 40 years. Yeah. So the government pledged to halve the rate in 2023, and so we're doing. Let's see what happens as well. So the UK inflation rate
it's done well from 11.1 to come down to 2.3 now. That's a good inflation rate to have. And the average, what's the target is 2%, I believe. Yeah. So it's 2.3%, which is nearly the target. Hopefully it gets easier for everyone out there. Yeah. Even though I think it's the inflation rate falls, but the prices are still, especially in the shops for groceries, they're still the same, I believe. I don't think
they're still the same.
Yeah, I don't think they've gone.
What the funny thing is that even if the prices in the supermarkets, if they were increased by inflation, then they wouldn't be increased that much. Yeah. It's the companies, they have raised the prices so high because they can. Yeah. And they may say that, because of inflation, this and that. Yes, fine, inflation. It would raise up, but not that much.
Yeah, and the average person doesn't have a say. He just has to go along with it.
The average person can't do anything.
And then on the other side, the jobs are still paying the same. They're not adjusting to the inflation rate, isn't it?
Exactly.
So that's why there's like a sort of crisis, you can say, in UK.
There is. Yeah. There is. Now, it's interesting because if we talk about like you just said, for the average person, groceries are still the same, and they have to live by it. Yeah. And there's nothing that you can do.
There's not an alternative.
There's no alternative, because obviously you have to get your essentials, isn't it?
You can't just grow something.
You can't just grow something.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't do that. But the funny thing is I remember there was an interview of our former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and somebody asked him about, what cereal does he have, or which
breakfast,
and
what does he have?
How much does a pack of cereal, a box of cereal, how much does that cost? And he literally didn't even know.
Yeah, as in that, how out tuned they are with the common man,
with the common man. I mean, for them it's nothing. For one person, they might have to think. Yeah. Do we want to get a branded one, or do we want to get a knockoff one?
You're going to go on Aldi or get a cheaper version.
Yeah, literally.
Even though they taste the same.
Well, some people may argue that it tastes a bit, a bit
Yeah.
up and down as well, because obviously at the end of the day it's a knockoff. But
Yeah.
still, that just goes to show that people who are, the people who are living with a lot of money, and the salary is quite high,
Yeah.
they don't even have to worry about things like that, essentials like that.
Yeah.
They just get it at their doorstep, or they just get it on their plate.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing that you're saying. I was listening to an interview of like an average person, on the streets where they conduct these interviews for like social media,
Right.
and one of the persons was saying that the elites, say the elites or the people that are governing the country, they are so out of tune or not. They don't really know what the common man is going through.
Right.
So because they've never lived that way.
They've never lived that way.
They've never lived that way. They've never had to struggle for the money, like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Like Boris Johnson was saying that he does not even know what the price of cereal are.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the common man, they have to go through and look carefully in what they actually want. So that's the situation nowadays, and it's just the leaders of the country need to, I think, calm down a bit and look at the situation from the public eye and see what they're actually going through. Then they will realize that, look, we need to change the country for the better, because people are actually suffering. Maybe we don't know about it.
Yeah,
but
exactly. And wearing their shoes, going into their perspective and seeing how they're living their life. Now, there's in regards to this, there's actually a saying of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and where he said that Sayyidul Qawmi Khadimuhum.
Exactly.
That the leaders of a people, the leaders of a nation, are the ones that serve the nation.
Exactly.
So how are you supposed to serve if you don't even know what they're going through?
Yeah, what the problem is.
What the problem is, or where the problems are.
The leaders are literally there to serve, to help
the
nation, isn't it?
So it's not
such a beautiful saying.
It is, and it doesn't mean that people who are governing, people who are at the top.
Yeah.
If they're not taking care of their subordinates, if they're not taking care of the ones who are, beneath them. Yeah. Then how are they supposed to rule as well?
Exactly. They don't have the right to rule.
They don't have the right.
If they're not looking after those that are below them.
Yeah.
They don't have the right to rule, because that's what leadership is. Exactly.
That's what leadership is as well. Obviously, and one has to set by example as well.
Yeah.
If there's no harmony between the leaders and the subordinates and the public, then there will be chaos.
Exactly.
Either if there's internal problems, then there will be a coup.
Yeah.
If there's problems with the people, the public and the government, or people who are ruling, then there might be a civil war. I mean, anything can happen. If there's not harmony, if that trust is not there, then that is exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That is why Islam is such a beautiful religion. Yeah. That it teaches that there should be harmony.
Yeah, and
there should be oneness.
Linked to your point there's another narration of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, where he mentions that you are not a believer until you like for your brother what you like for yourself. So if the leaders of today see that, look, we are living in this situation, and the public are living in this situation, if you would not be a believer if you don't like for them to live in the same situation.
Exactly.
So you need to provide the means, the sources, so they can get to that level as well.
It's such a beautiful teaching of Islam that imagine the leader of the Muslims, right? There was a time where the second caliph, right, Hazrat Umar bin Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, when he was elected as a caliph, what he used to do is that he used to, at night time, he used to go around putting a cloak on so people wouldn't realize that it's him, and literally go onto the streets and look for the people who were suffering, who were maybe didn't have any food, maybe didn't have a roof on top of their head, or whatever problems.
Anyone in
need. Yeah. He used to go out there and help those people as well. Yeah. And once he even went to a place where it was a little bit far, and there was a woman there, and she was crying, and she was trying to feed her children. Yeah. But she didn't have anything to feed the children. And what she actually did was that she just put the stove on, put something on heat, right, on
Yeah.
fire, just to make it seem as if it's something.
She's preparing
Preparing
something.
something. But then at that time, she just put her children to sleep.
Yeah.
And then he came, and then he asked, what's happening? Why are the children crying? And
Mm.
what's the problem? And then she said that, because she was breastfeeding, and her children were so young, the government didn't actually give any means
Mm.
to actually give any money to her or support her in this way. And then what he did was that he went back to the treasury.
Yeah.
He got some food, some dates,
Yeah.
these things as well, and he came lifting it himself. Even one of his companions
Yeah.
said that
I'll
lift
yeah.
it for you, but he said
Mm.
no. Like, are you going to lift my burden on the
And
day of judgment?
Yeah.
So he literally picked it up himself, put it on his back, and went over there.
Mm.
Gave all the food to the woman, told
Yeah.
her to prepare it, and then she prepared it, gave it to the children, and they were fed as well. And then obviously after that, he realized that that the women who are breastfeeding, they need support as well. They need
Exactly.
financial support and all that. So he introduced that as well.
That's the thing. That's where the financial help actually started from the Islamic world.
Yeah.
The second caliph
Yeah.
actually initiated that. The help scheme and the benefits that we receive.
Welfare system.
The welfare system that people are benefiting from in this country. It initially started from Islam. Not a lot of people don't realize that, from the second caliph, and you're so right, because they had the fear of God, right? They were righteous people that knew that at the end of the day they will be held accountable. They have the leadership, but there's a responsibility that comes with it, and at the end of the day they're going to be answerable to God.
Yeah.
And there's a narration that the second caliph used to say that even if a dog dies out of hunger, I am scared that I will be asked about it at the day of judgment.
Yeah.
So it's my responsibility.
During his rule,
exactly,
isn't it?
during his rule. So that's how cautious he was, that I need to look after the people. God's made me responsible to have this leadership, and that's how it needs to be governed. If we look at Islam's teachings, I'm pretty sure that the true teachings of Islam, we would not have these kind of problems.
We would not have these kind of problems as well. And that goes very much in line with the with the verses of the Holy Quran as well, because Allah the Almighty states that we need to look out for those people who ask for help. Sa'ili wal mahrum, that people who ask for help, and there's people who don't ask for help. And obviously it's understood that if somebody is asking for help and they need the help, the support, whatever it may be, food, water, shelter, clothes, that you feed them, you give them everything. But those people who don't ask, and it could be for many reasons, but maybe they feel shy in asking, maybe they feel hesitant in asking, maybe they feel a bit ashamed or embarrassed, and they don't ask, but you can look at their condition and they need help.
You need to go out your own way to look for those people at the end of the day.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Not just sit in your own massive house and it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. No one's asking, so it's fine.
Exactly.
It's not like
it's
that.
the leaders have that responsibility.
Yeah, they have the responsibility. But also, leading on from that, wal mahrum, those people who are deprived, it's not just about those people who don't ask. It's about the people who can't ask, the beings that can't ask. For instance, animals.
Yeah.
I mean, when they say something, you can't really understand them, isn't it?
Exactly.
So even plants, sometimes a plant could be dying and you wouldn't even realize.
Exactly.
And you need to water that plant. So it's so the
all of
teaching
God's
the Holy
creatures.
Quran is so beautiful.
Exactly. So beautiful. Exactly.
That it encompasses literally all creatures, like you mentioned.
It just reminds me of the point that there's the rights of God and then there's rights of mankind.
Yeah.
So if we're fulfilling the rights of God, we need to fulfill the rights of mankind as well. And God's created everything for us so that we can benefit other creatures, isn't it?
That's true. Now, just talking about this, the inflation rates as well. Rishi Sunak has said in response of the latest figures that inflation is back to normal, and brighter days are ahead.
Yeah,
Today marks a major moment for the economy, with inflation back to normal. That's what he said as well, and also, this is proof that the plan is working and that the difficult decisions we have taken are paying off. Let's see how much it improves. The thing is that and we mentioned this right in the beginning as well when we were talking about inflation rates, that if inflation goes back to normal, right, that doesn't make any difference unless and until the prices go back to normal.
Yeah.
if it doesn't matter about what the inflation rates are, if the prices are still high,
Yeah.
right? If
Then it's just a figure.
then it's
Isn't
just a figure, isn't it? There's just, oh, inflation is high or it's low.
it? Yeah.
Doesn't
It doesn't
who
matter.
cares about
It
that?
doesn't matter.
The main thing are the energy bills, the
Yeah.
groceries, the
Mm.
fuel, all of that.
Mm.
Right now,
Or
if
the
you-
income needs to be at that level.
income needs to be at that
Yeah.
level as well to match it. Of
Yeah.
course, the thing is that if you go to a supermarket right now, if you spend £100, that's not gonna get you even half of the things that you could
You
10
could-
years
yeah,
ago.
Exactly. We all
20
know.
years ago, you could have gotten all of that stuff for much, much less as well.
Everyone's a witness of that.
Everyone's a witness of that.
Exactly.
Everyone's a witness of
Even the so-called cheaper markets,
that. Yeah.
they are even charging that much for £20, for £10 that you could get 10 years ago. It's just
Yeah.
nothing now.
And now, your basket is not even quarter full, and that's £100.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, for those people who have kids
Yeah.
and they have to buy, let's say, nappies
Nappies, milk,
or milk,
yeah.
the powder milk for
Yeah.
the kids, for the babies, toddlers as well. That is very, very much expensive.
Very expensive now.
It's a bit. Sometimes it's a little bit, I would say, controversial that the powder milk.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see in the supermarkets, it's wrapped up.
Yeah, sealed.
It's sealed, and obviously to prevent it from being stolen.
Mm.
The reason why I say it's controversial as well is because if somebody can't afford to buy it because it's expensive, and they're looking to steal. I'm not saying stealing is permissible. It should be allowed or whatever. But what I'm saying is that if that milk is so expensive for people to buy, and some people even have to maybe think about shoplifting it or stealing it, that I think it's the government's responsibility to make sure that there's enough funds coming in for people with children that they can provide it, that they don't have to resort to these measures, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying stealing is obviously that's bad. It's not allowed in any
But
single
it just
religion.
shows
It's not allowed.
the situation, isn't
It
it?
shows the situation.
And that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and what we were talking about before,
Yeah.
the examples of the second caliph, Umar bin Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, and the teachings of Islam.
Yeah.
They're so beautiful and so unique in this regard.
Only
that-
if we implement them.
exactly.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
We just need a chance to implement the true teachings and then see how the society will flourish.
Exactly. So that's what the inflation rates are saying.
Yeah.
There's some other.
In other news,
Yeah.
as we all know, the war or the attacks of Israel on the civilians
Yeah.
in Gaza. Al Jazeera have posted that Israel's military have repeatedly attacks and have besieged hospitals in northern Gaza, so they're still attacking hospitals. And I was watching this video in the morning on social media where
Yeah.
the patients that are in hospital,
Yeah.
obviously they have to leave now because they're being attacked, and some they can't even walk, so they're taking the beds that they're in at the moment outside. So you can see the family members pushing the bed,
Yeah.
the bed where the where the patient is laying in. That's the situation that we see that's happening over there, and it's just, I don't know, it's been more than 200 days, 6-7 months now, half a year, and these attacks are still going on.
Yeah.
More than 30,000 people dead, children, babies, and still.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Even the ICC actually, that's a big news. They've appealed for a warrant for Hamas leaders and Israeli leaders, Netanyahu,
yeah,
and the military head of Israel.
Of Israel.
Yeah.
But
even though the USA are completely opposing it.
Yeah.
And obviously Israel, Netanyahu made a statement as well that is completely wrong. He actually compared himself. He said that issuing a warrant for Israel's leaders and Hamas leaders, it's like issuing a warrant for Bin Laden and Bush when the 9/11 attacks happened.
When the 9/11 attacks happened.
And you know what the history is,
you
right?
know
Yeah.
You don't need to. go
So
into that.
he's trying to he's kind of just put himself in the deep end by saying that. But that's how they're comparing themselves. That it's
Yeah.
completely wrong. Obviously, they're going to oppose it. But they're just now the judges of the ICC. They're just going to pass a verdict on the warrants and see what happens. But I actually read that Norway have recognized. They made a statement that we will arrest Netanyahu if he steps in the country. So they've said that.
They've said that as well. Yeah, that's interesting.
So Slovenia, Belgium, and France have also agreed with the ICC's judgment and the appeal of the warrants for them.
A lot of people in Spain as well, they are very much pro-Palestine.
Yeah,
also
pro-Palestine,
recognizing the Palestine state.
Obviously, I think anyone in this world that sees what's happening,
Yeah.
they will be against.
With the unbiased eye.
Exactly,
Yeah.
will be against the Israel government actions on the Gaza.
It's such a difficult situation. It's such a dire situation as well, and we see pictures, images,
that's the thing.
videos.
It's the most.
It's distraughtful.
Yeah, it's the most televised.
Yeah.
What can you say? A massacre,
yeah.
as in we can witness it from
We can
our
witness it,
screens.
yeah.
Every person that has a phone or is on social media can just see it. Like back in the day when we didn't have this technology,
Yeah.
we couldn't witness it.
We couldn't witness it.
And I don't think the human mind is supposed to see these kind of things.
Yeah.
As
Because
in,
it is.
it's so gruesome.
Yeah, it's so gruesome.
It's just, I don't know. And some people are still for it. I don't know how. Are still just saying no, it's fine. What it's being done.
Yeah.
But I think anyone with, like you mentioned, unbiased eyes sees what's going on would be with.
Yeah.
The
So
Palestinians.
many people, hundreds and thousands
Exactly.
of people have been killed. Become homeless.
Exactly.
Children as well. That's the
Elderly.
Yeah.
As in, the thing is, we've covered this topic for literally since
the beginning.
Yeah, since
isn't it?
October 7th, we've
Yeah.
covered this topic,
Yeah.
right? And it's still going on
It's still going on.
every day. There's still killings going on.
I mean, the thing is, when they talk about ceasefire, it's not exactly a ceasefire because there's still ground invasions going in
Exactly.
and blockade. Sometimes you see some people, they are so, I don't know what word to use right now, but there's
Blind?
the trucks coming in to give aid to the
exactly.
Palestinians,
Yeah, exactly.
and there's people.
Yeah, I've
There's
seen
literally
those videos.
people trying to block
Yeah, exactly.
the path. I mean,
It's the settlers in
how
Israel,
silly
isn't
can
it?
you be?
Yeah, they literally. I saw videos where they were setting light
Yeah,
to the aid
yeah,
trucks
yeah.
because they didn't want it to
Because
go through.
they don't want it to go.
And
through.
they know that there's children, there's babies, there's
Exactly.
elderly, there's women that are suffering in there because they don't have any food.
The thing is, if the same situation was opposite,
Exactly.
the
There'll be
whole
the
world would be
Exactly.
against them,
Exactly.
and they would say, "Oh, this and that,"
Yeah.
and then Islam would be to blame,
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
and that's a sad thing, isn't it?
It's just the views of the world or the Western world is just
But that just sort of puts it into picture. I mean, I don't want to go into conspiracy theories or whatever, but I mean, news, the media has to be controlled. Then, isn't it?
exactly.
Who's
That's
it controlled by?
Exactly.
By their agenda.
Exactly. That's the thing now. There was a survey going on. I was reading the other day that majority of the population, they don't even get their news from TVs anymore or these new big news channels.
Yeah,
It's social media
yeah.
because they
That's
do
true.
not
That's
trust
true.
them because they don't
it.
trust them anymore.
Yeah,
So these big news outlets that are out there now, they have lost credibility,
they've lost their credibility.
and
Because-
everyone is
because
going
everyone knows about their agenda,
exactly,
isn't it?
exactly, and they've seen lies
Yeah,
being portrayed on live television, so
Yeah.
they don't trust them anymore, and they go on social media, see the news
See
for
it
themselves,
firsthand.
firsthand,
yeah,
and that's the thing, and that's why you see some governments wanting to ban some social media sites
Yeah,
and stuff
you
like
have
that.
that, you have that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, TikTok is
Exactly.
getting banged.
and why
banned
is
as well
that?
in America.
Because it's first-hand news.
It's first-hand news.
Oh,
The-
you could say we're conspiracy theorists, but that's what
I mean,
we're
a
seeing,
lot of
right?
a lot of people have a lot to say about this as well,
Exactly.
isn't it? And some people would argue that no, it breaches freedom of expression, freedom of rights, or whatever.
Exactly. When
But-
they claim to be the
when they-
freedom of
When
the
they
champions of
yeah,
freedom
the
of speech,
exactly.
and then what do you
Inverted
see?
commas.
Yeah, And then you see them banning TikTok, which is basically expression of
Exactly.
your freedom.
What should be banned is that hateful comments, hateful videos,
Exactly.
things that slur up people, that videos that instigate
Yeah.
other people
Yeah.
against other
Yeah.
people.
Against other faith, other religions.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That sort of stuff
Yeah.
should be filtered
Yeah.
out. That sort of stuff should be blocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But if somebody is posting something, their opinions about what's happening,
Yeah.
and that's very
Or even
in an unbiased way.
Exactly. Even in social media, I've seen cases where certain videos are being published, but
Yeah.
they've been taken down.
They've been taken down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
because it's and it's nothing wrong with the video. It's just
true.
something that doesn't fit.
Fit their agenda.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the thing. That just goes to show that the news outlets,
Yeah.
all of these social media platforms. At the end of the day, there are just a few people who are controlling these
Exactly.
things.
And then you see what Israel did to Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
They completely
Yeah.
banned Al Jazeera from
Yeah.
their nation, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, because it does not go with their
Yeah.
agenda.
If they're getting exposed,
Exactly.
then cut it off.
So yeah, that's it.
That's the decision.
That's why they've lost credibility because they know what's happening behind the scenes, and social media is the only way.
But you know what the sad thing is? The sad thing is that the people, the public over there, they become so brainwashed and
Exactly.
tunnel visioned.
That's the thing.
That they don't realize what's happening left, right, center. They can only see what they've been fed,
shown. Yeah,
what
exactly.
they've been shown,
Exactly.
and that is so detrimental for the world at large.
Because what they're being shown is not justice. It's not the truth. Then it can have a very, very bad effect. Because they're being fed lies, and then they have a wrong opinion of what the situation actually is.
Yeah.
And then you see these kind of things happening where they're stopping aid and they're stopping all of these things going in.
The thing is that at least 140 countries have recognized a Palestine state, according to a recent letter to the UN, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that includes members of 22 nation Arab groups at the United Nations.
Yeah.
And the 57 nation organization of Islamic Cooperation and 120 members of non-aligned movement. Yeah. And the UK and the US are amongst nations that do not formally recognize a Palestine state.
Yeah.
But we see that Norway, Spain, Ireland are due to announce plans to recognize that as well. And Norwegian Prime Minister says that the country will recognize a Palestine state, confirming earlier reports as well. So, like you said, they are doing that. But one thing which, if the Arab nations, the Gulf, if, we've spoken about this before, so if they're not helping their brothers, if they're not helping their brothers and sisters and their neighbors, right, then how would you expect other people around the world to help them?
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Exactly.
If people beg the question, people do ask, and it's a valid question that
why aren't they?
Why aren't they? If they're the Muslim brothers and sisters out there, why don't they help them as well? And there's a lot of
and I think majority of the Muslim world are asking this question as well, because obviously they don't have that say, they don't have that power to do it. Yeah. But they want to help.
Obviously.
But the governing leaders of the country, they are being asked the question from the Muslims that why aren't you helping? Yeah. You have Egypt on one side, you have
Saudi Arabia,
as a big power.
That's the thing, sometimes it seems as if these nations, they're good at claiming something. They're good at claiming that they're an Islamic state.
Yeah.
But when it comes to
implementing the teachings
of Islam, we spoke about the teachings of Islam earlier on, isn't it, on the show?
Exactly.
And the what's happening right now is very contradictory to that.
Yeah.
And the leaders, it seems as if they're just looking the other way.
Yeah.
They know what's happening. They know the atrocities which are happening, but what are they doing? They're just looking the other way. That's it.
The thing is, they need to realize that they will be held accountable one day.
Yeah.
And whatever decisions that they've taken, they're going to be asked about it. So they need to.
Yeah.
They have a bigger responsibility than the public. So
their
of course they do. Judgment will be tougher. they'll be asked
Yeah,
more
because they're in
severely
power,
because
isn't
they're
it?
in power. They've been
Because they're in
given
power.
that role.
They've been given that role. On a lighter note as well. So Manchester City, they won the league. What
Yeah,
are your feelings about that? I mean, it was on the last day, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
man,
mean,
that's the thing.
it was a good title race. No?
Yeah, it was a good title race. It was after a long time. Oh, Arsenal did give them a title race last year as
Before
well.
Arsenal, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they gave them a
Gunners.
title. Yeah. But last day, it's just City. It's too strong.
Thing is, I was watching the match as well, and the Arsenal match, right? Because obviously it was at the same time.
Yeah.
And as soon as the match started, 2 minutes in,
2 minutes in. The thing is, I was telling one of
2
my
minutes
friends
in.
that I know for a fact 5 minutes in they're going to score a goal and our hopes are just going to die.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even 5 minutes; it was 2
It was
minutes.
literally just 2 minutes in, Foden coming in,
Exactly.
banged it in, and that's
it.
that's
But the
it,
thing is,
finished.
they did give us a bit of hope when they scored a
When
goal.
West Ham scored the bicycle.
Yeah. Good goal, by the
Yeah,
way.
good goal. Credit
Yeah,
where it's due,
exactly.
isn't it?
But then, yeah, they were just too strong. Even though
It's-
Arsenal won their game, they finished it on a high.
They finished it on a high because they did win the game.
Yeah,
as
they did
well.
win the game, but it's just City are just, you know how
City-
it is. They're just too strong right
But
now.
that just goes to show, isn't it? No other club has won 4 in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
4
And
in a row.
Yeah, and I
That's
think
not a small thing. You know?
yeah, I think it's because of the manager as well. I think it's mainly because of the manager.
Yeah.
I don't think any other person can come in and could do
Dominate
that.
like that.
Yeah, he completely dominated
Yeah.
it. But yeah, Arsenal had a good run.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll be strong.
Trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process.
Trust the process.
Yeah, it's paying off.
I mean, I think Mikel Arteta, he did say that when he came in
It's true, though. It was
to
not-
come in,
It was a bad state.
it was a bad state. But what he said was that he promised I think it was a 4 or 5 stage process,
Yeah,
and he said that right now we're in the second or third,
yeah.
and it's we're a little bit ahead of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Maybe next season.
Yeah,
might
but
be
then
the
you
season.
see the progress though, isn't it?
You do see the progress.
From what finishing 8th, 9th, now just 1 point behind the leaders.
From not even being in Europe,
Exactly.
right? Not even
And
competing
going into
for
the
Europe,
quarters,
going into the cause, which is not a small thing.
it's a big thing. After what 20? What?
After long years, after a long time.
Yeah, more than
after-
10 years. Yeah.
Most probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, most probably.
So it's huge progress, but hopefully there's even bigger progress in the
Hopefully,
future.
there's a bigger process. I mean, last year, I believe last season they did finish second as well, isn't it?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so this year as well, it was second, and
So-
it was literally up till the last day.
Exactly.
So, and they didn't bottle it at the end of the season.
No, they didn't.
They did bottle 1 or 2 games.
Last year they did.
Last year they did.
This year they did well. It's just City were too strong. They
City
won
were too
like
strong.
in last 18 games. They won all of them in a row. So what could you
Yeah,
do?
but Arsenal broke their record as well for
Yeah.
the most unbeaten
Yeah.
games as well, which was.
But there's another club that Bayern Leverkusen.
Yeah, Leverkusen. Yeah,
who didn't lose a single
Yeah,
game the
undisputed,
whole season.
yeah.
So they went invincible and
they went
won.
invincible.
They
Yeah,
won the Bundesliga.
yeah, which was quite amazing.
Amazing, yeah. They
Yeah.
didn't lose a single game.
For a Farmers League, which is dominated by Bayern.
Bayern Munich.
For them
Yeah,
to come in,
exactly.
and for not even Dortmund to come in, for them to come in,
Yeah.
I think the thing is that it's the credit goes to the
Xabi Alonso.
obviously the players, but
Yeah.
the manager as well.
Yeah. He
Xabi
played
Alonso.
a big part. It was his first season as well, I think.
I think it was the first season as well. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of clubs will be looking at him.
Look, you're looking at him. I know.
Big
I mean,
clubs.
obviously Liverpool,
Exactly.
Real
Klopp's
Madrid as
leaving.
well. Obviously, where he's actually played.
Yeah.
But let's
Let's see what happens.
Obviously, Champions League is coming as well.
Yeah, the finals coming
Uh,
on 1st of June. I
For
think.
1st of June, yeah, I believe.
So Dortmund could take something.
They could.
I know
take
you're a Real
something,
Madrid fan.
but Hala Madrid is all the time. So let's see. Let's see what happens there.
Let's see, yeah.
We'll draw a conclusion to the news. We'll take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll go into our first segment and get into that. With the number to call in if you want to contribute to the show is 0208 687 7878. You can of course call us at any time, but also WhatsApp us on the same number as well. That's 0208 687 7878. Join us after the break where we'll talk about John McFall, who's a para-astronaut on a mission to open up space.
الله أكبر You're listening to the Voice of Islam Radio, broadcasting on DAB and via the internet 24 hours a day.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Welcome back to the breakfast show here on the Voice of Islam Radio. As mentioned, we're going to be talking about this former Paralympian, John McFall, who's actually working with the European Space Agency on a groundbreaking study to see if it's feasible or not for someone with a physical disability to live and also work in space. So the BBC News has actually been following his progress as he undergoes astronaut training as well. It's interesting because it's actually it's groundbreaking, isn't it? And it's an exam.
It's a big step, yeah.
It is a big step, but it's also sort of a test, isn't it? It's a test to see whether it's feasible or not, whether we have that sort of technology for people with a disability, a physical disability, to actually go out there and work in space. Because let's face it, space is not for everyone, isn't it?
Exactly.
And even people without any physical disability, even they would think so many times if they want to go into space, and how would it be because of the...
Even some astronauts, I've seen some programs where they come back and then they are still suffering from being up there because
the
of
effects,
the...
isn't it?
The effects are still with them.
Yeah.
And someone with a disability going up there, it shows courage also.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's a big thing to do. But I think it's an opportunity that will open up for others as well once the step is taken.
I mean, obviously, it's not for if you're claustrophobic.
Yeah.
You can't go to space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. It's not for you. It's not for you.
Yeah.
And the thing is that having fear of heights is one thing, but being in that small place for weeks,
exactly.
could even be months.
Yeah. And not even on your feet.
Not even on your feet, just wandering about, isn't it? Obviously,
Floating
the food
around
that you're eating is going to be different.
Everything.
The water, I mean, everything is going to be different.
The thing is, everything up there is not used to the human body, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's going to have an effect on everything, basically. The stuff we eat, drink, everything.
Literally everything.
Yeah.
And it takes...
Because we're not made to live there.
Obviously not.
That's why.
We're made to live here,
exactly.
Isn't it? And
that's why our body won't. It doesn't.
Body does not function there as well.
There properly.
The travel is so long as well, because if you go to the moon, it takes a couple of days to get there.
Yeah.
Right. And to travel that much, and you're not even, you can't even
move
around properly.
Yeah.
And that can get a bit.
Yeah.
I
think that's why they have a lot of training for those that go up space beforehand.
Yeah.
They have a lot of training so their body can get adjusted. To how they're going to feel up there.
Just a little bit off on a tangent as well, because we were talking about training for any particular thing. If you've seen Formula One races.
Yeah.
And the training that they go through,
you
wouldn't even be able to believe the reflexes, the neck,
muscles,
so strong.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. So Mike Tyson sort of training with his neck.
Exactly.
If you've seen that, I don't know if you've seen that or not.
And the turning of the wheels,
the reflection.
Yeah. So I think everything needs a training, isn't it?
Everything needs a training.
To progress in anything, you need training. So.
And to go into space, that's is a big thing. It's not a small thing.
Yeah, it's a sport in itself.
But obviously, it's good to see that a former Paralympian, someone who's quite physically active when it comes to his disability, going into space, which is not a usual thing. And to do that, it's credit obviously goes to where it's due as well. And I think it's a groundbreaking news article that someone with a disability, a physical disability, I should say, is actually progressing in this field.
Yeah,
it was good because he was chosen as their first candidate for an astronautship in 2022, right? Despite having a physical impairment, to work on a groundbreaking project to see whether he could travel to space safely.
Actually, do you know the incident of how he became disabled?
Right.
right? The incident is that John lost the lower portion of his right leg in a motorbike accident when he was 19 years old,
Right.
leaving him an amputee.
Right.
So normally he sports a high-tech prosthetic.
Hmm.
However, he removed it to examine how it affected his upper leg. So he lost his leg in a motorbike incident, only when he was 19 years old,
Yeah.
which is a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. He's still a teenager,
And to
isn't
get
it?
through that and then become a Paralympian, it's very
It's dedication as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's although a space journey is not assured, this research will actually determine what has to be modified to make it feasible.
Yeah.
Whether it be the spacecraft, the spacesuits, or his prosthetic legs. They're quite expensive as well,
Yeah, exactly.
the prosthetic legs, or any sort of limb. So he's evaluating his running blade as well.
Yeah.
So he like we said, he's been involved in sports. He has that determination as well. He was actually a medal-winning Paralympian sprinter in the past as well. So he's not just a Paralympian; he's actually an award-winning one as well, a medal-winning one. So
and his wife as well. She's a former Olympic gymnast. So it's a very athletic family.
Athletic family.
Yeah.
So let's see if it's actually feasible or not. He describes how his weight presses his blade onto the earth, compressing it and causing it to spring back up, giving him an organic spring to go forward. So it is quite interesting as well. Like you mentioned, his wife Sonia, former Olympic gymnast, and the 3 young children. They moved to Germany in a significant adjustment as well.
Yeah.
And they discuss their dad's new job around the dinner table. Their pals find it cool, and it is quite cool as well.
Exactly.
Obviously the doctors have to be cautious in regards to sending him, and obviously to space as well. It's not a small thing. Now, obviously, talking about progress in regards to this, it is very much the teachings of Islam that we give people their due rights.
Yeah.
And even people with a disability, people with a physical disability or whether it's eye disability,
mental disability,
whatever it may be, it's to treat that and to make sure that people can actually live their life accordingly is very much promoted in the teachings of Islam as well. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be. It shouldn't be a taboo topic.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be something to look down upon as well.
Exactly.
So this is a very interesting topic, and we've got a guest that we're going to be speaking to after the news as well, because the news is looming.
Yeah.
And join us after that. We will continue this topic for a little bit longer, and hopefully speaking to a guest as well.
You're listening to the Voice of Islam Radio, broadcasting on DAB and via the internet 24 hours a day.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Welcome back to the breakfast show here on the Voice of Islam Radio. We're talking about this former Paralympian who is trying to become a para-astronaut, going into space, see if it's feasible to actually work there, live there, and do the things which other astronauts are doing as well. There's a brief audio clip which we will listen to about disability. Let's listen to it right now.
Really, what I would like to talk about now is that the physical disability can happen to anyone at any time through illness or injury. But what I like to say is that there is help, and there really, really is help. And there are charities and care organisations that do not discriminate. And no one really needs to struggle alone. And that applies to everyone, and also families as well as the individuals. Remember also, discrimination and prejudice in the workplace is against the law. If it happens to you, do not keep quiet. Don't keep it to yourself. Make sure you tell someone, because help is not far away. Many people with disabilities have made their mark in the world, and indeed in the world history, from presidents to groundbreaking scientists, and everyone knows who I'm referring to there as well. And now that's just got to inspire anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. I hope that you, like me, have been inspired by the bravery and determination that we've seen today. We can see that there is a real value in bridging the gap between disabled and non-disabled communities. Destroying prejudice is important, and encouraging new achievements, regardless of the disability, which is at the heart of a caring society.
So that's just a brief audio clip about disabilities.
Yeah. We do have another brief audio clip from the fourth Caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and in this he talks about some people might consider disability, having a disability, to be a form of suffering. And they could be asking a question: why is this happening to me, or why have I been chosen to have this disability? They might be born with it, or they might be suffering from it in their life, something that caused them to have this disability. So it's a bit of suffering. Some people might say that, look, it's because of your sins. Some people might actually think that because you've done something in the past, that's why you've now are suffering in this form.
Because
of that sin.
Sort of punishment.
Yeah, sort of punishment. So
it's a valid question. A lot of people do ask this question.
Especially a lot of religious people will ask this question, right? And so in this question, he basically answers this question, that are people in various parts of the world suffering because of their own personal sins.
Right.
So I think we should just have a listen to that and see what he says.
So that was of the fourth.
The fourth
Caliph,
Caliph, yeah.
So let's listen to that right now.
Certain part of the world, people go through sufferings for an extraordinarily long period of time. Is this because of some sins or related to?
Not necessarily individually, but the Holy Quran speaks of such people, in larger groups, who suffer other and more prosperous. Baldatun tayyibatun wa rabbun ghafur. This is where this description culminates. This is how it culminates. So, largely speaking, when the whole society has become sinful, many suffering automatically crops up from that state of crime. And people begin to suffer not necessarily individually for a certain crime which they have committed, but because the whole social setup is become criminal. The whole society has become criminal. So the innocent might suffer then, because it's the law of large numbers then which that operates. And in that no distinctions are made of who has committed a crime and how he should be punished. The social punishments are then common for everybody. And the Holy Quran also speaks of this. It tells us that beware of that calamity which will not discriminate between the pious and the unpious. Such calamities are these larger scale calamities which are created by human society themselves. It may mean something else as well, but this is also what it means. For instance, the suffering here in Britain and other parts of Europe and other Western societies, if you analyze them, a great majority of those sufferings are caused by human evils. Despite the fact that they are prosperous, they are well-to-do societies, they have no reason to indulge in crime. That is to say, no compulsion. Like in some poor societies, people are compelled to indulge in some crimes, although still you can't justify that, but there is some reason somehow. Somebody is poor, dying of hunger, if he steals a few things, somehow it can be justified, a little bit at least. But in such rich societies, prosperous societies, where Allah has provided them with everything, most of the crimes committed here are unnecessary crimes. And most of the evils faced by the society of today here is because of man-made situations. And when these crimes go beyond a certain limit, then the whole society begins to suffer, and then you can't discriminate between the innocent person and a criminal person. The suffering may be shared by an innocent person, and an evil person may remain scot-free for a while, but as a whole, the whole society begins to suffer. So this is what's happening nowadays. You know, these most horrible crimes of killing of small children and looting and drug addiction and the resultant crimes, dependent on drug addiction initially. So many nowadays. As I told earlier, I once happened to see a program on crime, and an experienced police officer who was responsible for that particular branch gave it on authority, on his personal experience, indicating a certain town that in this town, every third house is a seat of crime, where the crime of this particular nature, that is, what do they call, when they are criminal to children, they do child abuse. Yes. Every third house is an arena for child abuse, ranging from small abuse to very big, most horrible abuses. And he said before he was attached to this branch, was it every third or every seventh? I don't remember exactly. I think last time I spoke here, then it was fresh in my memory. But let's call it every seventh even. That is a very big percentage. Every seventh house being a seat of unseen crime, of child abuse. And children are sometimes maimed, sometimes killed, sometimes they suffer from psychological traumas which last for life. And then they showed some interviews of such people who were indulging in such crimes. Their faces were covered by some masks, and shamefacedly they said, yes, we do this and we do that, and this is all right. And some people admitted that we have been doing it for 30 years. They were brought from jails for this particular interview, or perhaps the person who interviewed them went to jail. And also those were shown who suffered at the hands of such criminals, and some of them were in a very bad, very rotten shape. They had lost interest in everything. Those who were sexually abused, they said they are horrified with the idea of sex. It's a terror for them now to even to think of it. So they were, they were to live single lives all their lives because of such crimes having been perpetrated upon them, not only by unrelated people, by parents sometimes, by fathers. And such fathers gave their interview and they said it was all right. So what is this? This is the crime of the whole society. So those also suffer who know or learn of these things. Not only those suffer who go through the experience, but the whole society aches. This is what I mean, that human crime sometimes is responsible for these large-scale sufferings. And generally in prosperous societies, this is the main reason. Natural calamities are responsible for only a very small percentage of total human suffering. Mostly it is man-made suffering which we experience in this age. Thank you.
That was, an answer to a very much a broader question when it comes to suffering, the philosophy of suffering, as well. And the fourth caliph of the Ahmadi Muslim community, as Mirza Tahir Ahmed, may Allah have mercy on him, gave that answer as well. Very eloquent answer. Let's speak to our guest who's on the line with us, Erin Pritchard, who's a senior lecturer in disability studies at Liverpool Hope University. So let's speak to them. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and welcome to the show.
Hiya, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Just to begin with, how do you think this will? The topic that we spoke about, the para-astronaut going into space, seeing it's feasible to go into space as well. How do you think that this will broaden the opportunities for people with disabilities?
To be honest, I don't think it will broaden opportunities. It's showing that there is possible opportunities, but this is for like the person in question who is great, a great para athlete, and is somebody who is an amputee, a very safe disability, a very one that can happen to anyone, of course, but one that is not like, say, Down syndrome or spina bifida or dwarfism, which is a lot more complex.
Right.
So it does demonstrate that there could be broadened opportunities, but whether they're put into place is another thing.
That's interesting take on that. So now, according to your research, how can we improve then? How can we improve the accessibility in workspaces for people with disabilities? Encourage them as well to pursue more opportunities in workplaces also.
Well, we need to go beyond what is the minimal requirement. So at the moment, we have very, what the government calls reasonable accommodations, which are there so that we don't, make trouble for non-disabled people. So it's just those minimal accommodations like a lift, a ramp, and wide door frames. That's it. That only accommodates for less than 10% of disabled people who are wheelchair users. It does not accommodate for the other 90%. So we need to go and take a more broader approach to providing access, which is through universal design, which provides for this broad range of disabled people.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And the environment that needs to be quite a positive environment for these people who are with disabilities. How do you think we can create these positive environments?
I think we need to change attitudes. So in the current climate, we have like this very toxic government who is trying to claim that, disabled people just choose not to work. We've had Lee Anderson thinking, if he thinks that disabled people choose not to work. And it's like, no, that's not the case. Disabled people since the 60s, 70s have been fighting for their right to work. And so we need to change attitudes. And we need to see not disabled people as a burden or an inconvenience, but as someone that can bring a positive, aspect to the workplace. So it's an attitude and saying, yes, we will make accommodations. There was an example of a man with dwarfism who wanted to go and do catering and hospitality. And the college the college said, no, he'll be an inconvenience. So instead of seeing him as an inconvenience, see him as this, how can we accommodate him?
Yeah. Do you think we need to educate people on how to create these kind of environments and have this positive attitude towards these people with these kind of disabilities?
Yes, definitely. We need to change the whole environment and change the, if we look at the way, for example, dwarfism is represented, people think we're only good for being hired out as figures of funds. But really, we're capable of working in so many workspaces. Like, for example, I'm a university lecturer. I know others who are doctors, lawyers. So we need to be creating more awareness about what we do and say that it is possible and get rid of this very backward, old-fashioned narrative that thinks that disabled people are just a burden who need help.
Yeah. And do you think that's how we can change the narrative regarding disabilities and equality?
I think, that's definitely one of the big ways we can do it, yes. It's about changing representations. Like, for example, I'm a core member of the Centre for Culture and Disability Studies, which is all about changing cultural representations of disability that are more realistic and more positive, and that put disabled people on an equal standing.
Any other narrative you think that we need to keep in mind so that we can change bring a change?
The narrative needs to be that we need to change society, not the person. And we need to believe disabled people, not make these assumptions that disabled people don't want to work. Like, disabled person doesn't want to work because they got a bad back. But rather look at the discriminatory attitudes that disabled people experience on a day-to-day basis and look at how we can move that discrimination.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for joining us today, Dr. Erin. It was a pleasure speaking to you. You provide us with very beneficial information. Thank you very much. Peace be upon you.
Thanks, and you.
That was quite interesting as well, and to change the narrative is very important, isn't it? Because we can't have that mindset. We can't have people who are in government just saying simply blanket statement that disabled people choose not to work.
Yeah, exactly. When they've been when she mentioned that they've been fighting for the right to work,
80s to work as well. The thing is that if we don't change the mindset, if we don't change the narrative, if we just keep it as it is and just think as if they're a burden, they're an inconvenience or this and that, then we're not giving them their equal opportunities, isn't it? And people with real disabilities, I mean, being an amputee or having sort of a paraplegic or whatever, it's an easier disability to cope with. Yeah. For instance, if you have anything else, dwarfism or Down syndrome or any other disability which is difficult, a bit more complex, and to deal with that, even someone with autism, dealing with someone with autism, that could be even more difficult than dealing with someone with a broken leg or broken arm. Yeah. So that's
fairly easy actually. With someone that has as an amputee, like she mentioned, as well, it's fairly easier to deal with.
I mean, we're not saying it's easy at all, but it's easier.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, there needs to be opportunities for everyone.
For everyone,
isn't it?
And that's where education comes in. From young, if you teach the kids that, look, these are the people that have the same rights, same opportunities, then when they grow up, they won't have these kind of blanket statement people that are governing the
and it's quite
country.
Rude as well, isn't it? It's quite rude just to say,
rude.
oh no, you're not working just because you have a disability, so you're not. Exactly. And that's it. I mean,
and not even thinking about what the actual person is actually going through or what the actual intentions are. So that's the situation.
That's the thing. We spoke about the teachings of Islam, isn't it? And how Islam is such a comprehensive religion and it encompasses everything. It looks into every single thing in play.
Exactly.
It's the government's responsibility to look out for those people, search for those people, and like you said, help them as well. We're going to be taking a short break and draw a conclusion to this part of the show. And when we come back, we will go into our next topic, which is also quite interesting as well. And we're going to be talking about neurotech. And this is this the future, or is it something that we shouldn't meddle with? Is it too meddlesome? So we'll talk a little bit more about that. If you of course, if you want to contribute to the show, 0208687778 is the number for you to call. You can also WhatsApp on the same number as well. We'll be back after a short break.
The Holy Quran states, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. An-Nur is that being through whose light a physically blind person sees, and a person who has gone astray finds guidance. It is that being who is apparent and through whom all things are manifested. His being is apparent in himself and makes things evident for others as well. The true light is God, which can be perceived in everything by those with insight. However, one who is devoid of spiritual sight cannot see it. A believer is firm on the belief that the universe that can be observed, as well as the universe that cannot be observed, is created by God. In order to give an understanding of this light, God sends His chosen people who spread the Nur, which comes down from the heavens throughout the world. The promised Messiah, on whom be peace, writes, that light of high degree that was bestowed on perfect man was not in angels, was not in the stars, was not in the moon, was not in the sun, was not in the oceans or the rivers, was not in rubies or emeralds, or sapphires or pearls. In short, it was not in any earthly or heavenly object. It was only in perfect man, whose highest and loftiest and most perfect example was our Lord and Master, the chief of the prophets, the chief of all living ones, Muhammad, the chosen one. Peace and blessings of Allah be on him. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be on him, set the most excellent example and the highest standard of Nur, which was established as a reflection of the light of God, and which will continue till the day of judgment. The Nur he received was conveyed to his companions and established excellent morals amongst them, so much so that he likened them to the stars. After the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be on him, the reflection of God's light was the promised Messiah, on whom be peace. This was due to complete subordination of his master. Not only did God fill the promised Messiah, on whom be peace, with Nur, that was sent down more than 1,400 years ago, he also granted him the station to spread this Nur. The promised Messiah, on whom be peace, wrote that no one knew him, and God compelled him out of his solitude, and told him that he would bestow upon him honor and make him renowned all over the world. It is a way of God that when he adorns someone with Nur, he manifests it to the world. After all, when the worldly light has a capacity to spread, how can the light of God stay hidden?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Welcome back to the breakfast show here on the Voice of Islam Radio. And on this part of the show, like you mentioned before the break as well, that we're going to be talking about some new neurotech. And it's a bit controversial. A lot of people have mixed opinions in regards to this as well. Yeah. It's an article that we're speaking about, that we're talking about Neuralink, a neurotechnology company owned by entrepreneur Elon Musk. Now, Neuralink's first human trial faced a setback as the implanted chip began detaching from the patient's brain. Obviously, you don't want anything like that to happen. Patient Nolan Arbor, who underwent the implant surgery in February, experienced a decline in the device's functionality within a month. Now, some of the chip's threads...
The thing is, I think these things are bound to happen because it's just like a first trial, isn't it?
But the thing is that if you're look, I mean, the article also says that some of the chip's threads, right, which are crucial for connecting the device to the brain, started to retract. That's basic, isn't it? At least have it function. At least not have it detaching. At least not have threads coming out and the connectivity losing its connection. All of that, isn't it? There's one thing where it malfunctions, it doesn't work.
That is the main function of the chip, isn't it? And because that connects the device to the brain.
Exactly.
That started detaching. So
the whole functionality of it didn't work.
I think they need to improve on that, but I don't think I'm in favor of it.
In the first place, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't think anyone, not anyone, but some might be. But I remember speaking about this couple of weeks back. It was a big news when they actually started implanting this chip in the first place. I remember we raised this news in our previous shows.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's a big step, but then, like you said, within a month, it's just falling apart.
But that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's the device is still experimental, so they're still doing experiments on the device as well. But
it's unsafe, isn't it? Though
it is unsafe
for the patient who's going through that.
You don't know what the side effects may be as well, isn't it? Maybe it hits another nerve, and the person can lose functionality in let's just say an arm or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a scientist in regards to this, but it's still in the experimental stages. But the patient, has actually used this implant to play chess, using his thoughts as well. So
I think
it does work kind of.
This chip was supposed to be linked to your device, isn't it? To your phone.
Right. I'm not sure.
And at the same time, they were going to be able to use their phone without actually using it in their hands.
Right.
So they could actually control it
like
with their brain.
Metavision or
control it
like
with
that.
their brain. So it could come up in front of them. They could see something. So that was the function of it. So
I don't know. But it is controversial as well, and we need to look into the moral aspect into it as well. Can we actually interfere with something like that
this?
as well? Let's speak to our guest who's on the line with us, Anish Kochar, who is a computer scientist at Imperial University London. Interest is focused primarily on neural networks, machine learning, cryptography. However, over the past year or so, has gotten involved in neurotechnology as well. Anish, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Peace be upon you.
Thank you for having me on.
Could you explain the purpose behind this, the Neurotech Society, and what particular forms of neurotech it actually focuses on?
Of course. So the Neurotech Society is a student-run society at Imperial. So it's basically just a student club. The purpose of it is to organize speakers, get people to come in and talk to the society, to run projects. So that's a big part of what the society does, is get the students of Imperial actually creating their own brain-computer interfaces. And just sort of generally to get people into the industry, as it is a relatively new space. It is the first, currently the only, I believe, student society for neurotech in England. There are many in the US. The US is very ripe with this sort of stuff, but it's only taking off now in the UK.
So how do you see that advancing in the future as well? That in neural interfaces like Neuralink's brain chip implants. Do you see that influencing in the future?
It's a tough question to answer, because Neuralink is not the first company to get the FDA approval to get a brain-computer interface in the body. It's an invasive technology. There is a company called Synchron who have done something with the spinal cord, and they effectively inject stunts into the bloodstream, effectively. So different technology. And I think in the future it will continue to take off. It will continue to become more and more well documented. As you said just before I came on, Neuralink is very much a testing device still. They are still. It's the first time they've implanted a brain-computer interface in a human.
Right.
And that research is going to be massive. It's going to be incredibly, incredibly important that it's done correctly. That's why it's taken so long for Neuralink to get to this stage. And in terms of like future research, future treatments, it will be invasive technologies that we are seeing, like the neural interface that Neuralink has. It's going to continue on that stream.
Do you think? I think there might be a lot of risks with this. Are there potential risks of having these devices into like a brain of a human? There might be.
I mean, the risks are the list. If you were to list them, would go on forever and ever and ever. The brain is the biggest mystery that we have as a species still, which is remarkable given that every single one of us has one. And it's a case of like, I mean, to put it in one of the most simple terms, if you think of the brain as effectively the texture, the consistency of tofu, and you are effectively sticking something metal inside there. And a person moves as they will throughout the world. So let's say you're simply just running. Your brain inside its skull is not stationary. It is continually moving because it is effectively encased in a liquid, encased in a dura. So that metal thing that you are sticking inside the consistency of tofu can move around. And that is one of the biggest challenges that you'll face with a neural interface, is that you are inserting a foreign body into the most sensitive organ that a human can own, and expecting, and basically praying that the damage it causes is minimal, because it's going to cause damage. Like, if you think about it, the brain is an incredibly complicated, evolved piece of biology, and it's not been evolved to have a foreign body inserted directly in the middle of it. You know?
Then why do you think they want to take this risk? Why should we take this risk when it's such a sensitive part of the body?
Well, actually, this is a good question you can get from actually looking at Neuralink's history, because they started off as a company who wanted to do something a little bit akin to the Vision Pro, if you've seen what Apple have done, where you effectively augment people's lives with this neural device. And I think they realized a great deal of the risk is too much to overcome really at this stage. So they pivoted into making it a device that is used to rehabilitate, basically. So it is if someone is paralyzed, for example, and they lose the capability to move their legs, the neural interface is supposed to augment that in some way. It's effectively giving you capabilities back. And the reason for doing that, obviously, is just because it's the best way to get into it, if that makes sense. Like, if you're going to make a neural device and you want it to be somewhat successful at this stage, where we don't have the ability to augment human abilities, you need to give humans the ability back, which they have taken away. You know, if they lost the ability to use a phone, it's the same thing they need to be able to do.
So these chips will be connected to a device outside of the brain as well, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how the Neuralink one is done. So Neuralink, anyone who's in the neurotech space or not in the neurotech space will probably know they're a very secretive company. There's very little known outside Neuralink. They haven't published any information really on how their devices work. All you get is really the demos that they put out, which is very unusual, I should say. In the scientific community, there's a lot of explaining what your tech is, especially if it's something as significant as a neural interface. But I would imagine, yeah, exactly. Neuralink's technology is communicated with an outside device, so that, for example, you know, their first patient is able to play games with the neural interface. So that is based on some sort of, I'm not going to say Bluetooth because it's probably not the same thing, but it is that sort of idea.
Oh. And you know, with AI expanding and that technology coming in as well, how do you envision like the role of AI and machine learning in enhancing the capabilities of these Neuralink devices?
It's a great question. I think AI is, ML specifically, is going to give the greatest increase in value in this field specifically, because brain-computer interfaces have so much data they have to churn through, because we don't really understand the patterns behind the data. So, for example, the most common form of a brain-computer interface is an EEG headset, which is electroencephalography. It basically reads, like, if you've heard of alpha waves, beta waves, gamma waves, it's that sort of thing. Like, on the skull, you can effectively hear the electrical patterns changing based on what's happening inside the brain. So that sort of data is really, really hard to look at and to understand what it means, because we don't speak the numbers, because the numbers, the patterns that actually arise, for example, if someone is moving their left arm, the pattern that arises in the EEG output is extremely, extremely subtle. So that's where machine learning is really, really powerful at effectively picking out the patterns in the data. And it will continue to do, you know, other things in this field as we go on. Yeah,
that's very, very interesting. So thank you very much, Anish, for joining us today. I'm sure the listeners really benefited from your information.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Peace be upon you.
And you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That was Anish Kochhar, who was a computer scientist at Imperial University London. And as he explained, his interests focus primarily on neural networks. And he elaborated a bit more on the topic that we are going through, which is the Neuralink chip that was implanted in a patient and which had fallen off. As we will be moving further on into this segment,
it was quite interesting listening to Anish there as well, and his thoughts on that as well. I think he gave some good information in regards to this.
Yeah.
Because it is relatively new, isn't it? And like he said as well, that it's still
very sensitive.
It's very sensitive.
Yeah.
It's still coming up. It's still coming up.
Yeah.
Right. It's still a new concept.
It's a trial.
It's a trial, and it's still in the testing phase.
Yeah.
So obviously it's going to have teething problems as well.
Yeah.
It's going to have these problems. So to actually come into or introduce this type of technology, it's something which is because it hasn't been tested before. It's such a new thing. It's a new concept as well, and there is this element of morals to go with it as well. Is this even the right thing to do? Is this type of technology the way forward? And do we need to come in and sort of alter the creation of God as well? Is that even a question that we can ask in regards to this? That's the thing. We wanna hear your thoughts in regards to this as well. Please do call us 0208 687 7878 as well. And of course you can obviously call us, but also WhatsApp us on the same number. That's 0208 687 7878. What do you think about this? Is this even a thing which we can do? Is this something which is plausible? And to come to it on a moral basis, something which is beneficial for mankind. Yeah. Something which is beneficial. It should be taken on board. But at the same time, if you're altering God Almighty's creation, if you're trying to play around with the creation of God, we can't do that, because let's face it, Allah the Almighty even says in the Holy Quran, right, that we cannot even make a small fly.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't even make a small fly, right?
We don't have the capability to create
a
create a fly, exactly.
Exactly.
With the same functions, with the same capabilities of what God has created.
Exactly. And also, if a fly comes and takes something from your food or whatever, right? You wouldn't even be able to get that food back or catch the fly.
Exactly.
Allah the Almighty says that, so something similar to that, paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But Allah the Almighty says that in the Holy Quran as well. And how weak.
Yeah, showing us the weakness of
human beings. And the fly as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
Exactly. And then on the other hand, we claim to have we all have big egos, and we claim we are something, and then God compares us that, look, if a fly takes something from you, you can't even take it back.
You can't even take it back.
Yeah,
that's how weak you are.
So forget all this ego that you have, put that to a side.
I mean, God Almighty says that He created us from a clot of blood.
Yeah, exactly.
And then a man grows up, and then he begins to become a boastful person as well.
Yeah.
And
as in we're nothing, and then we become something, and then we think we are actually something.
We are exactly. That's why all of these pharaohs and all of these people with the Abu Jahals and all of these guys, all of these self-claimed people with authority, claiming to be divinely commissioned, or even claiming divinity as well. These so-called people, but that's the thing, isn't it? They always see their end.
Yeah,
they always meet their end as well.
As God says that, surely in the end, me and my messengers will prevail. Yeah.
Exactly, and that is exactly what happens. Yeah. So that's the thing. When we talk about these things, we need to understand that we can't play the role of God, because we're not God.
Yeah,
we can't play His role. We can't create something out of nothing, but also we can't alter God Almighty's creation as well.
But at the end of the day, medicine and all these kind of things which benefit humans, which benefit us, we are able to create. But God has given us the opportunity to create that. So obviously we can't alter
Yeah, obviously,
the
obviously.
creation, but we can make some useful things out of what God has already
What God has
provided.
already provided us.
Yeah.
Exactly. There are some things which are good. There are some things which are bad, and obviously there are some things that we need to look into as well. It's not just something about coming up with something new or coming up with something like that, but we need to look at if it goes in line in accordance to God Almighty's will as well.
Yeah.
Like I said in the beginning, willy-nilly, we can't just do whatever we want to.
Yeah.
Right? We can't just play the role of God as well. Now, there was this very interesting question. Can one alter God Almighty's creation, or one can infer from the verse of the Holy Quran that there is no altering in the creation of Allah? That's in chapter 30, verse 31. That man will not be able to alter the creation through genetic engineering.
Yeah.
It's a linked question.
Yeah, it goes in hand with
this as well. Let's listen to the fourth caliph of the Ahmadi Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, may Allah have mercy on him, what he answered in regards to this as well. We'll listen to a bit of this audio.
Yeah.
But you have missed the import of this verse entirely. This is why a false question has cropped up, which has no right to crop up at all. The Holy Quran is not saying that, what you inferred. On the other hand, the Holy Quran itself declares as a prophecy that under the influence of Satan, people of future would change the creation of Allah, Khalqullah. And that has been declared by the Holy Quran. I don't remember the surah, but I can give you the reference. You remember? Can you remember the verse? Yes, you can get it. So, what you have inferred from this verse is positively wrong, because other verses of the Holy Quran throw light on this subject and tell us that under the influence of Satan, people of the future world will interfere with the creation of Allah and will somehow succeed in changing the creation of Allah, which will ultimately be wrong for them, ultimately be bad for them. This is the inference from that verse. Now the verse which we have quoted is speaking of fitrat Allah allati fatara an-nasa alayha. Allah has given man a nature, and the religion which Allah has revealed is born out of a special reference to that nature. It has a direct relationship with the creation of God. So it exactly fits in. No other religion will fit exactly with the nature of man, because nobody except Allah knows the nature of man. And Islam is that final religion and complete religion which in every aspect of human nature has a counterpart to fit in. That fitrat, human nature, cannot be changed by anyone. This is a challenge by the Holy Quran. As long as that cannot be changed, the religion which fits in with that nature, which meets all the requirement of that nature, cannot be changed. So this is a proof of the eternal message of Islam, if because it has a direct relationship with the nature of man, as long as the nature of man cannot be changed, this religion does not require to be changed. Zalika Deenul Qayyim. This is what the Holy Quran says, not the right. Qayyim does not mean the right. Qayyim means not only right, but also one who is lasting, which cannot be changed. So fitrat Allahin, what was the verse? Fitrat Allah illati fataran nasa alayha. This has a direct relation with the second verse which you quoted. Zalika Deenul Qayyim. So Qayyim means one which cannot be destroyed, which cannot be tilted, which cannot be removed from its mooring, and which is constant, which is straight in itself, and which also has the power to straighten others. So because this deen is related and completely coincides and tallies with human nature, so it cannot be changed. It will remain forever. That is Qayyim.
Could I carry on with the second part of the...
The first part has fallen.
Yeah,
How can you
well-
build the second part on the fallen part?
Oh, sorry.
Pardon? I say the first floor is already collapsed. And you want to build the second floor on that collapsed floor?
No, sir, I'm sorry, I was not ready with the full verse of the question. You very rightly pointed out I should have quoted the earlier verse, to get my answer sorted out. You see, sir, it's only a couple of weeks ago, the doctors, the clever doctors they call themselves, they changed the heart of somebody and put baboon's heart in him. I wonder how these things fit in with these verses.
I mean, these verses have no relationship with that phenomena you're quoting.
Yeah, but
I've already told you.
Yes, sir, they call these genetic science and...
Let them call it, they're all right. But they are not related with this declaration of the Holy Quran.
Have they got any right to intervene in the nature like this?
Just a minute. The point is, to change the creation of God is a declaration, is something which has no relationship either with the verse which you are quoting or with the fact which you have just quoted. It's irrelevant to both. That is a different thing altogether. That means changing the creation of God means that through genetic engineering, for instance, you introduce some characters into other genes. And characters are different from the fundamental characters of that species. So that a new species is born. That is what is called changing the creation of Allah. So to change a kidney or to change a heart is not change in the creation at all. It is on sustenance of some life, that is all. Because when you change the heart, the person does not begin to behave like a baboon. Or if you borrow a kidney from a pig and implant it to a human being, that human being does not change his character. His nature is not influenced in the slightest. So this is why your illustration has no bearing whatsoever with the changing of creation. As I have quoted, change of creation is a different phenomenon altogether. They are, particularly in America, very advanced, not very advanced, but they have started to travel in this direction. And advanced in the sense that as compared to the rest of the entire world, America is most advanced in this newly born science, which is called genetic engineering. And they have carried out certain experiments. And already they have started great apprehension in the society, given birth to apprehension not only among the laymen but also among the scientists. And I have read papers on these experiments, and I know that certain knowledgeable scientists are protesting against these experiments, and they are warning that things may go completely out of your control. Because the knowledge as to how these genes work and what will be produced when you implant a chromosome with a foreign gene, that knowledge is so limited and power of man is so limited as well that you cannot correctly predict what is going to happen. For instance, they experimented with some bacteria. They planted a gene of a different species of bacteria to a bacteria, and mathematically the result should have been that new character should have been added to that bacteria. This is not what happened. A completely different thing came into being. So this is what the scientists are afraid. Some knowledgeable scientists are afraid that if that science progresses in this direction a few more steps, they may create some evil animals which will ultimately dominate the mankind and destroy the mankind. And because there will be new phenomena unknown to us previously, so we will not be able to tackle them or to cope with them. And out of all the prophecies that the Holy Quran has mentioned about the future progress of man, this is the only prophecy in which there is an element of reproof, displeasure, because this intervention in the nature and the creation of new things is spoken of in the Holy Quran, or that you will do in the manner that is obviously an expression of displeasure. The Holy Quran tells us that at the behest of the Satans, they will begin to do this. Read the relevant verse, please.
إن يدعون من دونه إلا إناثا وإن يدعون إلا شيطانا مريدا لعنه الله وقال لأتخذن من عبادك نصيبا مفروضا ولأضلنهم ولأمنينهم ولآمرنهم فليبتكن آذان الأنعام ولآمرنهم فليغيرن خلق الله.
That's it.
ومن يتخذ الشيطان وليا من دون الله فقد خسر خسرانا مبينا.
خسر خسرانا مبينا. The Satan addressing God says that I will order your servants, and first they will begin to interfere superficially. They'll cut the ears or tails, things. The first interference with nature will be just superficial. Then they will delve deeper and begin to change the nature of creation. So Allah does not say that this will not happen. Allah only tells yes, but then this is a bargain of great loss. They will ultimately suffer. So this is the only prediction about scientific progress which has been mentioned with positive censure and displeasure. It's a very dangerous game.
Thank you.
So that was the words of the fourth caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, may Allah have mercy on him. So very, very interesting listening to him there as well. That actually draws a conclusion to this show. Thank you so much for listening, and of course the guests who took time out and spoke to us as well, the producers, the lead producer, the researchers as well, and of course thank you to the technical department and Abdul Halim. It's always a pleasure to present with yourself as well. We'll be back next time. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.